I used to have a problem that I gave the students for red circled employees, an individual who was above his pay grade for some reason, earned more than others in his pay grade, and what to do with that individual. There's some really interesting cases on it, but as a problem to solve, I asked the students to determine what is the best method. So let me give you, I turned that problem into a question on one of your quizzes. So just be aware of that. The typical response is you basically, if this person shouldn't be paid, you don't want to remove that individual from that pay grade. You don't want to take pay from that individual. It creates a lot of problems for the individual's home finances. And that individual becomes a disgruntled worker who then can, like a bad apple, spread that kind of unhappiness through the workforce. So what you do is you just freeze that, you circle the individual, they say, with red ink, and you freeze that person's pay as the other people in that same pay grade move up through your own decisions. In other words, if you give annual cost of living allowance increases, you might increase that individual's COLA, but you wouldn't increase any type of bonus, you wouldn't increase any type of incentive, you would allow the others in the group to come up to that same person's level over a period of time that you would provide incentives or increases in pay for that pay grade. So that is something to think about. What do you do? How do you fix the red circled employee? You don't penalize that individual by lowering their pay. You do give them cost of living allowances because that's what they are, but you don't create more incentive. You don't give more pay as you would increase the other people in that grade. There's a slide which I've included. It's more than what you have in your book that may explain how, if a person is performing, how you can reward that within a pay grade. The slide has the title Merit-Based Performance Matrix. And so as you're doing performance appraisals, this information is part of the results. In other words, you take that data, you take those results, and you add to it this type of matrix. Where is that individual worker performing based upon your philosophy to reward reward their performance? In other words, they have merit and you reward that merit. So look at this information here, see if it makes sense to you. Because what we're looking at is anybody that within a pay grade is exceeding expectations, we have a faster way to reward them within that pay grade. And again, as long as individuals workers who are treated both fairly and with open information that this information is available to them when they start the work and are hired, then it all works out for everybody. In other words, everybody knows that you're rewarding merit. And so if an individual is trying to move forward, trying to earn more money, they have a clear route, and you're supporting that through this clear matrix.